Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from whenever we are watching this. Welcome to week 7 of Run For Not From. As always, with hashtag Run For Not From, it's about getting in the outdoors, whether it's sunny, whether it's raining, not worrying about the time, the pace, the distance, just being out in the beautiful outdoors and getting some well-earned time away from work and just having a bit of me time. And I want to stress why I say doing it outside and not on a treadmill. Look, if a treadmill is your only option, it's really admirable and it's better than nothing for sure. I've lived in St Albans my entire life. I've just stumbled across this path because I'm exploring, because I'm out, and I'm so excited to where it will lead. It may mean that I have to turn around. It could be a dead end, but I'm so excited by the prospect of where it could lead me. And I think that natural curiosity is something that we lose as we get older, and we've just got to retain it as much as we can. So excited to see where this goes. This week on our hashtag Run For Not From Run, we're going to talk about motivation and sort of breaking down the umbrella term that is motivation. If you look at the different types of motivation and how we get driven to do things, what keeps us engaged, there's mainly sort of two areas. That's that internal or intrinsic motivation, and there's the external or extrinsic motivation. We're going to break down, we're going to have a little discussion about what they are, why we need them, and maybe how we as people can manipulate them within ourselves to push us to achieve things that we didn't know were possible. So I hope you enjoy. Let's talk internal motivation or intrinsic. This is the kind of motivation where there's no physical prize, there's no physical reward. You're probably doing it for personal growth or personal achievement. Maybe you're doing it simply because you enjoy it. And maybe it could be down to a natural curiosity. You're curious to do something, you don't know what your body, your mind is capable of doing, and so you have to trial it out. Similar to a fitness, I don't think people really know how fit they can be, what their body can truly achieve if they put the time in, if they put a little bit of effort, and not for a time, not for a half marathon, full marathon time, not for a new bench press PR, just to see how far you can come in a certain amount of time. On the other hand, external motivation or extrinsic motivation is all about that physical reward. It's about getting that medal at the end of the finish line, finishing first, maybe even prize money, stuff that not a lot of people, particularly within the health and fitness aspect, have the privilege of ever doing. Professional football players, they have the extrinsic value of the better they play, the better contract they can negotiate, and the more money they can make. But for your run-of-the-mill average Joe or Jane like myself, fitness might never be something like that, and you have to find the internal value. Some good examples of extrinsic motivation could be studying because you want to get an A on your exam, unlike reading a book for pleasure, which has an internal motivation. You want to be made happy by reading completely on your own time, whereas studying for that A has an external value for you. An example that I was probably made aware of from a very early age is if you eat your veggies, you can have dessert. That is a absolute stone run extrinsic motivation. If you do this, you can get rewarded with this. But what I want to know is, how can we manipulate these so that we can drive ourselves to achieve more than we ever thought possible? What can we do day to day to really push us? What I think is that you need to use a little bit of both. That external and that internal need to come together to create a well-motivated package, a well-motivated person, maybe even a well-motivated team. If you're in the privilege of leading a team, whether that be socially or at work, I think if you're taking that fitness connotation, which I always love to take because it's the simplest one to gauge, there's a steady metric of, are you getting fitter or are you not? Or are you staying the same? And I think within a fitness journey, you need to look at your goals. If your goal is to lose weight, whether that be muscle, fat, whatever it may be, you know, set yourself external goals along the way. Put it in a book, in your diary, on your phone, I don't care, and say, when you lose X amount of weight, you book a holiday. So you know along the way that there is a reward coming. The internal rewards or that internal motivation will come when you see what your body can achieve. When you do shift that weight, when you do maybe get a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, maybe you look in the mirror and you like what you see a little bit more, you'll feel that internal motivation and that will really drive it home. And every person is different. Me personally, I'm all internal. If I see myself improving, it flicks the switch. When I'm playing sport, if I'm playing well and I see that I'm really getting on the nerves of the other team, that gives me such a pleasure. It's that old sort of like David Goggins mentality of taking souls. And you don't necessarily have to be competing with anyone, but you know you're doing well. You're doing better than most. You don't need to tell them to their face. They're on their own journey, you're on your own. But you know you're just taking souls and kicking ass. And I love it. I absolutely love it. The final thought that I want to say for this video is maybe I've hidden a type of motivation from you. I think people can be highly motivated from addiction. And addiction has many connotations, and mostly it's a negative term, negative word. It sparks that fight or flight with a lot of people of being addicted to drugs, alcohol, bad people. And I would say I have a very addictive personality, and I am heavily, heavily addicted to fitness, my own vanity, and many things in between. And one thing about addiction is you can fight it, most definitely. And the negative connotations I have towards fitness are maybe shame, maybe a bit of guilt when I don't do something. Maybe I miss a workout. Maybe for me, maybe if I eat some crap food, I feel guilty and I don't enjoy it as much as when I stick to things. And that's not a healthy way to be. And I know that. And I'm working on that struggle. But I'm glad, in a way, that my addiction is fueled, hopefully, by a community that is linked towards health and fitness, towards betterment of myself. I'm a very happy person. I'm a massive optimist. If you know me in person, and if you start to know me through these videos, you'll clearly see that. And I'm not a person in distress. I want to make that abundantly clear. But I can be a person who has their wobbles, has their insecurities with fitness, with life, with their image. And I think a lot of people can too. And if I was going to choose an addiction, I'd choose this addiction, because the good days massively, massively outweigh the bad. That leads on perfectly to the quote of this week's #Run4, not from week 7. And this week comes from Melinda Gates, the philanthropist, famous businesswoman, currently worth about $30.2 billion and formerly married to Bill Gates. And she says, set your own agenda or someone will set it for you. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, comment, and turn on those notifications if you've enjoyed it this week. I'm really enjoying making these. The feedback I'm having from my friends, my family, and even people I work with have been so positive, and it's motivated me to continue these for as long as I possibly can. Thank you so much.